Tighter home loan rules. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian Heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I've got my stein of coffee, still working through it, and I thought we would have a look at this article from the ABC about the ASX's home loan rules and more information they're requiring from the banks, because we're constantly hearing every property pundit out there is basing all their hopes of this insane growth that's going to happen this year somehow on just the easing of loaning rules. But now we're seeing ASIC, as opposed to APRA, come in with greater requirements, which I think is quite sensible. In some regards, I think people need to have a budget and should go into the bank with a budget. Banks should be teaching people how to budget so they can pay off their debt, but we know that's not what the banks want. They want to keep you in debt, keep you their little servant. Anyway, let's have a look at this article. So ASIC's home loan rules ask banks to look at everything from streaming subscriptions to school fees. And I mean, we've seen all the issues with regards to the Royal Commission and the brokers and banks doing dodgy submissions to get it across the line. But I mean, these are big spends, streaming subscriptions and school fees. I know for one, if you add them all up, all the little subscriptions you have there, I remember back in the day, I'd have a Crunchyroll and would have a Netflix. Oh, it's $10 here. When you look at it going, wait a minute, that's like $30 a month. That's decent coin. That's a $31 coffees at 7-Eleven. And if you haven't seen, it's one of the best coffees in Australia. It's been declared by the List King. So let's have a look. Michelle Winata wanted to enter the property market, but not get in over her head or be unable to travel while she's still young. I did want to maintain my lifestyle, and the holidays that I did choose were very budget, she told the ABC. A teacher from Western Sydney, Michelle has been able to save money by living with her parents, who were supportive of her property ambitions. Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, this is a smart thing that a lot of people are doing. A lot of people have to do, really, just because how high properties are at the moment. But still going on holidays, okay, I guess, but, you know, essentially you're borrowing against your house to go on holiday. When you go camping is bloody cheap. Well, actually, no, it's not anymore. My family all invests in property. My sister bought her first home when she was 18, she said. Well, see, this just shows you how big a thing property is here in Australia. Why 57% of the nation's wealth is in property. Why our, great IT businesses that everyone raves about, that Australia's an innovation nation, have to go over to the US for their IPO listings, or to raise startup capital here in Australia, because everything's going into property. With the help of a mortgage broker, Michelle settled on a house and land package that would allow her to get a foot in the door without being overburdened. Michelle has no other debt burdens. Good girl. Low expenses and a full-time job, so she wouldn't be considered a high-risk case. But her broker and her bank still needed to make sure they are complying with responsible lending laws. And that doesn't just mean a simple calculation of income minus expenses. So, what is an unsuitable loan? And before we continue to go through this, I'll just bring up this chart. This is showing the loans in arrears, guys. The red is people 150 days late on their mortgage repayments. Look at WA. I mean, that's concerning. I know it's not a big portion of the, it's only 1%, 1.5%. We'll have to see how it keeps going, guys. I'm hoping this will be reduced because of the cuts to the cash rate. But, they're going to have less effect now as they're passed on. People are in negative equity in the whole, it's a sad situation to be in. So, what is an unsuitable loan? Banks, lenders, and brokers are governed by responsible lending obligations set out in the National Credit Act. These laws, in place for a decade, require lenders and brokers to not provide or recommend credit products that are unsuitable for a customer. An unsuitable loan could be one a borrower can't afford to repay or can only repay with substantial financial hardship. For example, a monthly mortgage repayment that means a borrower can't pay their electricity bill. Well, we're seeing that. We're seeing that in South Australia, where banks are pushing people to go to food banks. Or when electricity bills come in, food banks see an increase of people turning up there. Just have a look. Have a look at what's generating the power in South Australia and why it's so bloody expensive. Or it could be a product that doesn't fit with a borrower's objectives. For example, a credit card with a $20,000 limit when the customer only wanted a $2,000 credit card to purchase some flights. See, what we've done, I've cut out, we've got two credit cards, one for business and one for private, and I've put them both at 500. I put them even lower if I could. And I'm tempted to flip them over to debit credit, but I'm kind of too lazy. I just like having, frankly, I love the tap and go. Even though I'm all against the cash ban, I love the tap and go. And I love having the credit card statements for my bookkeeping. That's it. That's the advantage of it. Guys, I wish you could get them like $100 credit and then just whack more money on it. But, I mean, that's a good point. You can change that yourself. You don't need to, it's easy to change the limit. Responsible lending was at the heart of the Banking Royal Commission, and while Commissioner Kenneth Hayne did not recommend changing the law, he did find it wasn't always being followed. He also noted that a crucial test case on responsible lending was still before the courts at the time of his final report, brought by corporate regulators ASIC against Westpac. In a much-anticipated ruling, Justice Nye Perham found that thousands of home loans made by Westpac weren't irresponsible despite using a relatively low benchmark rather than customers' actual living expenses to assess the loan. I mean, just think about that. Think about that. They're not, as a profession, that's like, I don't even understand that, to be honest. That's like not even doing your job properly. It's just taking an average, taking a number out of a book and then applying it to this situation. I mean, that's nuts. How much harder would it be for them, or difficult? Well, no, it's just because it's incurring additional costs to the banks to put the effort in to get a thorough understanding of their client. However, ASIC is appealing that decision, further muddying the waters for lenders about the standard that is expected as they await the final outcome of the bank. See, this is the thing, guys. This is a fundamental thing. All these regulators and things and banks, they're not going to take care of you. They don't give a crap about you. The banks are not your friend. They are not your friend at all. Okay? Not in the slightest. This is just another example where people are going to the bank and dumbly believing what the bank says. And I don't blame people for that. I was like that. We didn't have any idea back when we were younger looking at different options. People need to be encouraged to learn how to budget, to learn how to record where every dollar goes. So they can go to the bank and print out an Excel table. Here you go, guys. This is our budget. This is where every dollar goes. That needs to be encouraged. That needs to be taught. Much more. Much more. That'll have a greater impact on our quality of life over the long term, I think. Being stuck in debt is not a good situation to be in. I'd say that would lead to a lot of mental health issues as well. In the meantime, ASIC has released updated guidance, which it says it's principles-based, with the aim of showing what actions a lender might take in particular circumstances to meet their responsible lending obligations, but not prescribing what has to be done in every case. So here you go. I mean, I have very little faith in ASIC. They just are an organization that collects money, from anyone with a registered company every year. I know with Cloud Token that's now going under, I reported the registered business to it. They didn't do anything. It's probably still running. Australian business, crypto scam. Now people can't get their money out of it, which is quite sad, but I mean, this is the price some people pay for education. You can sometimes pay the hard way, guys. So what questions should a bank or broker ask? ASIC's new guideline include a slew of detailed, very specific examples that lenders may encounter. Karen Cox from the Financial Rights legal center has welcomed that approach. Some of those are cases are very like ones we've seen here at this service, Miss Cox said, who leads the center which runs the National Debt Helpline. Everyone thinks this won't happen to me, but when you see the circumstances in which these things happen, it becomes so much more real. Some of the examples included in the update are requesting a cancellation letter from a streaming service if someone says they'll give up the subscription to afford a small loan. Can you get a cancellation letter from them? Cool. Maybe we should just ask for them for the sake of it, to pin it up on your Facebook. Asking whether a would-be borrower is willing to move their children from private to public school. Yes, there you go. I mean, we're homeschooling or distance schooling in a private school, which is actually cheaper than sending our kids to public school when you add all the other cost of going to school. I know it's free, but it's not really. Making sure a full food delivery driver is earning enough income to make repayments over several months, not just relying on 1 week's payslip. See, none of this seems innovative, guys. What does that tell you about our financial sector? Does that fill you with any confidence? I know there are a whole lot of fans of the banks watching my channel. I know that, and this may be hard for you to watch. It's okay. As those examples illustrate, ASIC is guiding lenders to confirm whether customers have made changes they say they would if they are necessary to afford the loan. If the consumer will need to make spending reductions and lifestyle changes to meet the financial obligations of the credit product, you may need additional information to enable you to determine whether the credit product will meet the customer's requirements or objectives, ASIC said. There may be some lifestyle changes the consumer would not be prepared to make to afford the credit. This is an important document for the industry to guide each bank's approach to responsible lending, which we will now study closely to assess any impacts it might have on borrowing for customers, said the Australian Banking Association's Chief Executive Anna Bligh. This seems like common bloody sense. This is pathetic that this is an important document for the industry. These things seem like common sense. Anyway, I mean, like I said, they don't give a crap about you guys. They're not your friends. Concerns about tick-the-box compliance. Justice Nee Perham's judgment in the Westpac responsible lending case has become known by its most headline-grabbing line. I may eat Wagyu beef every day, washed down with the finest Shiraz, but if I really want my new home, I can make do on a much more modest fare. Well, I mean, you can buy your beef in bulk. Wagyu? Yeah. The crux of the case was Westpac's use of the household expenditure measure, a relatively low estimate of basic living expenses in loan assessments instead of customers' actual declared expenses. Using the fine dining example, Justice Perham said that knowing the amount I actually expend on food tells one nothing about what the conceptual minimum is, and argued that conceptual minimum is what is crucial in determining whether borrowers can actually make loan repayments. See, that's a good ruling. I agree with that. Should you be denied a loan? Maybe you need to, what they want you to do, to live an austere life leading up to your mortgage, your application. Because, you can cut back. What if you all of a sudden go keto and start buying your beef and meat in bulk? I think there's a whole complicated debate on now in light of the Westpac case around the concept of belt tightening, says financial rights Karen Cox. She has some concerns that unscrupulous lenders will ignore individual customers' circumstances. If I look at someone's statements and see that they're spending a lot of money and consistently overdrawing their account, then to what extent should I be able to say to them, oh, you're willing to give up this service and this service and this service because if you do, you'll be able to afford this loan, and that's the end of the story. Well, I mean, we're adults, aren't we? It certainly is where there is the risk of the tick the box type approach, where you can say sign here and you're willing to give up the following, which won't actually assist consumers in the long run. Well, people need to learn to budget. People need to learn to budget. I get the feeling a lot of this, it seems to be more nanny state stuff coming in a way. But then again, the education is also controlled by the state. And people need to learn. Maybe they learn the hard way. Maybe they learn by going in arrears. Maybe these people are tightening their budget really hard. You got to do it. While she agrees about the wine and wagyu being optional items, Ms. Cox cites other spending that may not be captured in benchmarks but are considered a necessity by certain borrowers. For example, additional schooling for a child with a disability. Well, that's a rare requirement, and a lot of that's by the public service, isn't it? I know we've got friends who've got disabled child, and it's all covered by the NDIS. Anyway. For its part, ASIC said the responsible lending obligations are intended to strike a balance between the goals of minimizing the incidence of consumers entering unsuitable credit contracts and the goal of maximizing access to credit for consumers who have the desire and ability to service it. For Michelle Winata, that balance meant purchasing land and building a home in another city, taking on an affordable mortgage that if she had tried to jump straight into the Sydney market. Ideally, the ultimate goal is that I can sell it and then buy a house in Sydney, because at the moment the Sydney prices are just too crazy. What is she expecting to happen? Oh, I guess drawing the income from the investment and selling it and then using that as a deposit. What happens if the other city crashes? But then again, if she bought in Brisbane, it may be fine. For now, she's waiting for construction to wrap up so she can contemplate her next move and still enjoy a holiday in the meantime. Oh, but she's a teacher, isn't she? So she can easily move around the country, I thought. So there we have it, guys. There we have it. What do you think about this? What do you think? I mean, nothing here seems innovative at all. I honestly would assume the bank would do this just for their own risk mitigation strategies. But are they so lazy that they don't? Is this the state imposing too much regulation on the banking sector? Or is it just the sign that people don't really have control over their finances? What's your opinion in the comments below? I think this will mix opinion with people. Some will be for, some will be against. I'm just bloody well surprised that this is new. Honestly, come on, these are simple bloody things. Anyway, guys, take care. Like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. If you're a fan of the channel and want to help us produce more, you can support us on Patreon with a small monthly donation. We also have the ability for you to join the channel here on YouTube, where you also receive access to badges and emojis, handcrafted by me. And we have affiliate links with Independent Reserve for your crypto trading, Amazon and eBay for your consumer purchases. They're great ways for you to support a content creator without incurring additional costs for yourself. We have our own merch, pocket squares we make at the HeiseSays, we make here, available from the HeiseSays website. And finally, we have PayPal if you want to make a direct donation. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day, and I will talk to you later. Bye for now.